of no, scratchity scratch. Hello everybody, my name is Harrison Hopkins, I'm with Key Smash Studios, and welcome to our first Key Smash Studios devlog. We're creating these as a way to reach out to the community and share information about our upcoming game that we just started working on. It's called Beyond the Northwind. It's a game set in a Nordic scene, and it follows the tale of two protagonists, two main characters, and their quest, period. We're going to have to get into more of what that means shortly. First things first, though, this is our first ever devlog. This is the first time that we have kind of made one of these to reach out as a company and share everything that we're doing intimately in our game design process personally. So what better way to do it first than with some introductions? So let's bust into it by introducing myself. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Harrison Hopkins. I work as kind of the PR marketing dude for the Key Smash Studios team. Now, there's a lot of learning that's involved with that for me, and I'm not great at it yet because we're a new company. There's a lot of stuff to learn. But I try to get out there on social media, and I'm learning how to use these platforms to communicate with y'all, our amazing fans, and anybody as part of our Key Smash family through Discord, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much anything I can get out to share information with you and to go back and forth with y'all about the kind of things that you want to know and we want to tell you about. Next on the list, we have our main man, Terry Taylor. Terry is our creative director. He's the man with many talents and a big old brain for planning things out. He's done modeling, he's done material making, shaders, he programs. He kind of likes to have his hands in every single pot. A lot of what he does is plan and think through things, and you'll see a lot of that when I start explaining this game, because he's had a lot to do with really digging into the culture that we're trying to represent in our game, so that it really feels true to life in all the ways that it's supposed to, because it is a video game. Next up is our boy Carson Hopkins, and that's actually my little brother. So he is the face of our Twitch channel. He loves the entertainment aspect of our company and reaching out to the community and really engaging with y'all on a one-on-one basis. You can check him out in the Twitch link below. I'm going to put it down there. But he loves that stuff. He's also an amazing video editor and is working on some contributions to our YouTube channel that are going to be coming out soon, more on the entertainment side. But he loves Twitch streaming, and he's done video game art. If you check the App Store for a game called Blast Off by Key Smash, you will see a lot of his art. He drew a lot of the rockets and a lot of the assets for that. But his true passion is entertaining, and you just gotta go see that for yourself. Our next person is Emily Struby. She is a coding wizard. Out of a company poll where 4 out of 4 of our group members were asked, do you think that Emily is our hardest worker? It was unanimous. We all totally agree that she gets her work done. No matter what we ask her to do in the programming world, if we need a mechanic to display, she's going to figure out how to make it. She also writes Discord bots in her spare time and answers all kinds of questions in the Discord along with Terry. So she's an absolute wizard, and honestly, a lot of us feel like we'd be doomed without her, so she's great. Finally, the 5th member of our little Key Smash founding team is Nick Ferraco. He's kind of our guru for UI. He loves making game UI, programming good menus, and making sure that when you play a game, if you have to go through a menu, you're not going to stress about it. You're not going to sit there and claw your eyes out because it's a bad menu. That's what Nick is all about. He also gets his fingers into the modeling. So a lot of the models that you're going to see today of objects and even a cave that I'm going to show off were actually made by Nick, and he's working through figuring out how to make his models better every single time we work on a game. So another amazing member of our Key Smash family. But that's kind of everybody now. Now that you've met the team and you're familiar with our little family, I think it's time that we get into Beyond the Northwind. That is the game that we are working on right now. Beyond the Northwind is an adventure game set in a Nordic time. The whole game is based off 2 characters that are traveling together and going on this epic journey and overcoming struggles together to reach a grand goal. And of course, I'm not going to spoil too many story elements because who wants their story ruined for them? But I am going to get into some of what we're using right now to create this game and the ideas that we flushed out in this very first devlog to start building a game from the ground up so that you guys can be right along with us. So let's jump into that. So the first thing that we're going to get into right now is going to be the story. We're going to get into kind of some of the stuff that we have researched to help create an amazing story from the ground up. To start, I can say that our two main characters' names that we've decided on currently are Bjarder, if I said that right, it's kind of a scary name, and Astrid. Bjarder is going to be a male, Astrid's going to be a female, and these two people are going to travel through the game together. Now, currently we don't have any plans to make this a multiplayer game. As it stands today, it's a single-player adventure where one player controls both characters. The idea is that one of the characters has AI, and you can switch between them whenever you'd like, and you use this to overcome obstacles. But we're going to go over that later. Let's stick to the story. So before we started actually developing everything, we had a lot of conversations and a whole lot of meetings about what kind of story we need to build this from. You know, any good adventure game starts with a story, and we really wanted to meet the expectation of the Norse culture. We wanted to dig through as much of that as we could and make sure that when we represent things from there, it's as accurate as can be, considering we're in what is a fantasy world. So our man Terry really, he just dug into a lot of culture like that, and he built family trees and all kinds of things to help us understand these characters better. He looked at how names were passed down through families, the roles of people in their family relationships, and all kinds of things. And it really helped flush out our two characters, Bjarder and Astrid. We really wanted to give them as much life as we could in the development phase, in this very early phase, so that moving forward we could put ourselves in their shoes to help understand how to better build the story and how to help give these two characters just a personality. The first family tree that you see right here is for Astrid. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we built these trees to help our characters have more life and to help us really understand Nordic culture and the way that their families worked. So as you'll notice here, their last names might look a little strange because they change generation to generation, regardless of if it's a male or female that moved down with that name. The reason for that is because what we found is that Nordic culture doesn't share the same last names like American culture does. Our company is all from America. We have family names that are passed down from generation to generation, usually through the male. So as he marries, he takes that family name with him, and if he has a son, it continues. In Nordic culture, what you'll see here is that they actually take the father's first name and then a suffix at the end of the name to represent if it was a daughter or a son. So you'll see here, for every male that was born from two people, it has the father's name and then the suffix son. So Eric son or Harrison son, which sounds really bad. But you'll see that for all of the daughters, they have a similar thing, but it's dottir. I believe I'm saying that right. So it would be Eric Dottir or Harrison Dottir. So that's something that we learned and something that we wanted to we just, again, build a tree to help familiarize us with the culture and with these characters. The next one you'll see is for Bjarder, and his looks very much the same. It shows all of his family tree moving down, where their names came from, who their parents were, and all of that. Now, you might be thinking that this isn't super useful for game design, and for the game design portion, it might not be. But we really wanted to emphasize with our game the importance of family bonds. That's going to be a big theme in Beyond the North Wind. So we wanted to make sure that by creating these, we're really putting a lot of understanding and emphasis into how important families are. And you can't do that without understanding how the family works. So that's what we have with these family trees. The next thing I want to talk about is the map. So obviously one of the more important parts of a video game is the places that you see, the world that you get to explore. And in an adventure game that we're trying to have as open as possible, we really want to make sure that you're exploring somewhere that's enjoyable. So how are we going to do that? We started off with a planning map. So the map that you're going to see here behind me is actually a map that we created for the sake of planning out our entire world, I guess. This is really just the first level because that's what we're working to create, one section at a time. And this first level, you're going to see all kinds of different things. So you're going to see a bunch of features on the map that will explain how we're laying things out and are helping us build this world from a top-down perspective. One of the first things that you're going to see is the town. That's represented by the little brown circle. That's a wall around the town. It's going to be where you start your game and where your characters' families are from, both of them. Another thing you're going to see is the big old fjord. So that's what this kind of water-like thing is. It's the presence of a fjord because, well, let's face it, if we're going to be honest, we just think fjords are super cool and we wanted a reason to use one since we're making the game. You can see across the map all those wavy lines. Those are actually a height map. We're using that to kind of understand the elevations throughout the level, because it's not going to be just a big flat plane. There are going to be flat areas and a good, nice area of exploration that doesn't involve climbing, but if you're going to have a fjord, you're going to have height. If you're going to have a height, you're going to have mountains. So this height map is to help us understand where the height's going to be so we can regulate the level a little better. Finally, you're going to see an explorable cave and all of the level ground. So the explorable cave is just what I said. It's a cave that you're going to get to explore at some point in the game and use it as a progression method. There's going to be a lot of cool challenges and puzzles to complete in there, but we're going to talk about stuff like that later. The last little thing is the plains, like I mentioned. Any flat ground, we're going to either have wonderful forests or beautiful plains. And we're really working to create models to fill those environments to make them feel cozy and inviting, open for exploration. We want this first area to really pull the player out of their shell and to have them look all over the place just to see what they can find. Another thing that we did to help continue working through this is that we've designed a 3D model of our map area just to kind of see it better. A top-down view is really good for planning, but this 3D model that we've designed is a good way for us to see everything in a three-dimensional space for the first time. Because anything on paper can look good with enough finesse, but you really have to throw something into an open world for you to be able to figure out, does this look the way I imagined it? Does this inspire me the way it did in my mind when I wrote it on this map? And that's what this is about. Obviously, some features are still being designed, and there's a lot of stuff we have to work on still, because this is really our first iteration of the three-dimensional model based off of our map. But we're working through it. There's a lot of space left to grow, and I think that we're going to be able to fill this world and make our first level super exciting. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the art. A lot of games take reference from things that inspire them for their art theme, and for us, the inspiration is Sea of Thieves. Now, we're not going for an exact look like Sea of Thieves, but we absolutely love this game. It is amazing, fun to play, and beautiful, and we wanted to kind of take some of the elements of the environment that we loved a lot and use them to make our game seem better. One of those things is that we're trying to steal some of the way the models look, like rocks. We've been playing around with beveled edges, sharp edges, a little more of a cartoon style, a little more realistic of a style, to really see what fits our game best, what fits the environments best, and what we think will fit the theme of the story best. Because obviously, if you're trying to go for a story that embodies struggle and hardship and hard work and overcoming things, having a cartoon style just isn't going to cut it. So that's something that we're really, really working on, is deciding what kind of models we're going to use. So as I mentioned previously, we have a lot of different models that we've been playing with. So in this video here, you can kind of see all of the different stuff that we've been testing. Rocks, trees, a lot of really basic stuff for now, because we want to nail down the art before we make some of the more complex pieces. Obviously, some of this is going to change, and you're not going to see some of these art styles moving forward. But we really are trying to make a bunch of things and test it out to see what fits best. Because, we don't want to just go with our first instinct. We want to be able to see and visualize and feel and decide that's the one that works. So that's what all of these models are helping us do, is come to the best case scenario for our game instead of just the first gut scenario. The next thing that we want to show off is this cave system. So Nick, our modeling dude, has been working on this cave along with all those models you just saw, and he's really created a lot of good work here. This is going to be the first explorable cave in the game, and we're really trying to use it as a precedent for all of our other caves. So we're testing things like how we want lighting to work. What can we fill this cave with? How big do we want it to be? How level or how elevated do we want the cave to be? There's a lot of stuff we're playing with. And one of the things that we're working with is trying to see what objects we want to fill this with. So say, for instance, you had a bunch of glowing mushrooms, or some rubble, or a bunch of glowing flora. There's all kinds of different things we could play with, whether it's collapsed rocks, pillars from an old society or old buildings, or just a bunch of jagged terrain. We're really flushing out the idea and trying all these different things to create an atmosphere that feels amazing. Because who wouldn't be amazed walking into a giant cave and seeing glowing mushrooms or something else? And that's what this cave that we're working on right now is going to become. It's going to become the very first instance you have of a cave, and it's going to help us set a precedent for how all of our other caves and underground explorables in the game should look. The next thing we want to show off are some of the materials that we're going to be using on different things. Now, these are temporary materials. We haven't decided to carry any of these through right now, but they're what we've created so far, and we're going to test them out in the 3D cave model that I showed and the map that I showed once we start pulling this level together to see if it works the way we want it to. But as you can see in the video I have playing behind me, there are pretty much 4 different types of things. We have one made up for lava, which you can see right there, another made up for water, another, you guessed it, for stone, which is going to be a lot of the rocks and the basic walk-arounds, and then one for ice, because obviously we're going to have a fjord nearby. It's going to be chilly, especially with elevation. So we want to make sure we have some good cold materials to make the environment really feel like it is extra chilly. And again, I want to mark that these are temporary. So even though they might look amazing, we still really want to play around and figure out what fits best in our game before locking into anything. But we think we have some pretty cool first drafts mocked up. Now, the last thing about the map that I want to point out is that we're working in to have landscape math. So what this is that it's a feature that in our world, as you're further away from things, they look a little smaller, but as you get closer and closer, it's going to scale appropriately to your distance to help these environments really come to life. And it should also help kind of highlight the low poly effect that we have in our game. So there's a brief example of that going on behind me, but that's one of the features that we're working on, again, just to help kind of make our environments glow and pop just a little more. You know, anything we can do to make the world feel more inviting, we're really trying to add into our game. Another thing that we've been working on is planning out our puzzles and our quests for this first level and this first area. As you can see, we actually have kind of a document, a Photoshop document worked up that has multiple layers that showcase some of the locations we think these will go. We also have a bunch of little notes you can click on, and it brings up the note and tells you what kind of obstacle or puzzle or challenge that should be. So whether it's a quest to shoo the squirrels out of one of the fields, or some kind of climbing puzzle that you have to overcome using your climbing skills. All of these are things that we're trying to calculate into our map to really fill it with experiences. A wide open area is lovely, but a wide open area with nothing to do is just a walk in the park. And we want the player to be able to explore, find something, love it, be excited, and keep exploring to find the next thing. And that's what this is helping with. You can also see that we have a bunch of little red markers that kind of showcase where certain things are going to be, their size, their orientation, and then a few lines to help dictate the paths that the player might take to progress through the game. We're really trying to plan as much as we can here so that our game is foolproof. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a big thing. That's mechanics. So any game can look good and have a wonderful story, but if you get in and you're playing and it feels like crud, that's not going to be very good. So we have Emmy working on our mechanics, and like I mentioned earlier, she's a wizard with this stuff. She has been working tirelessly on making some really, really amazing things, and I'm excited to share some of those with you right now. Alright, so the first thing I want to mention is that in the videos you see, it's going to be a bunch of arms just like this. That's just because we don't have our models in place. Again, we're very early in development, and we haven't had time to model or animate things yet. So we're using these temporary arms as a way to showcase our mechanics just on a still body. As we move forward, obviously, we're going to have animations, we're going to have models, it's going to be sick. But for right now, we're just using these temp arms. If you're wondering where we got them, I'll put a link in the description. It's just a free art thing that we downloaded off the internet. But they're a good placeholder for what we're doing. So the first 2 things that I want to talk about mechanics-wise are all the really simple stuff. First is our camera. After some discussion, we decided that a third-person over-the-shoulder camera would be the best way to go. We think that it'll be a little better for navigating these environments, because in a big open world like this, having a wider viewpoint and being able to see your character and the environment around your character is very rewarding. It also helps you see a little better because of how much you can see in a third-person camera, and it works a lot better with some of the mechanics we really, really wanted to have in the game. The next bit of mechanicry I want to talk about is just basic movement mechanics. Like any good adventure game, we are going to make sure that we have the basic movement mechanics. So we have walking, running, crouching, all of those basic movement mechanics will be available in our game and have already been programmed in. The next bit of mechanicry I want to talk about are the advanced movement mechanics. Now, we're really working on having ways for players to explore their environment very fluidly, and a lot of that involves climbing. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of height changes. There's good elevation where we are, there's Freljords, large caves, cliff faces, and we need to be able to explore those properly. So something that we've programmed are advanced movement mechanics to help you as the character move around in these environments. So to get into what those are, we currently have 6 mechanics that are relatively easy to explain but help the character explore so much more of the world. The first is edge grabbing. So in our game, there'll be edges all over the world that you can jump up to, your character grabs a hold of, and you can use it to scale to different places or climb up or pretty much get to places you couldn't by walking or jumping. And those are going to be all throughout our game and super easy to find and use to locate amazing new places. The next is dropping. An extension of edge grabbing is if you're on an edge, you can drop it anytime you want to. Doesn't seem super complex, but you can use that for a lot, you know? Because if there's a hidden platform somewhere that's not on the end of an edge, you can drop off at any time. But you have to be careful. Drop too soon and you might hurt yourself just a little bit. The next thing is edge jumping. Now this took a little while longer for Emmy to create, but it's a super great mechanic. So if you're traversing some kind of edge cliff and there's a gap, like part of the wall has fallen off or part of the edge has crumbled away, you can actually jump sideways and move over to the next edge and continue crawling along the edge. We're going to use this for a lot of exciting obstacles and puzzles to test the player's ability to climb these edges. The next is ascending and descending edges. You can climb upward diagonally or downward diagonally on a lot of these edges, and that's going to help with, like I said, a lot of height management. There will be certain obstacles that aren't a perfectly flat shape, and we want the player to be able to navigate these just as well as they could navigate a flat edge. So we've added that ability in as well to keep the player always exploring and always looking up and down. The next thing is edge rounding. Edge rounding is kind of self-explanatory. Imagine there's a cylinder and you're trying to work your way around the side of it. We've programmed that in so that the character doesn't just go sideways and fly right off. They're going to cling to that edge and follow it around whatever shape it takes so that you can get to where you're going a little easier. And the last thing is simply edge climbing. You're on an edge, it doesn't mean you just have to drop off or go to the other side. If you grab an edge, you can pull yourself right up on top, assuming you have a place to stand. Always make sure to check that before you just throw yourself upward. Could get yourself into some trouble. The last little bit of mechanics that we're going to talk about today are actually the multi-character controls. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to follow both Bjarder and Astrid through their adventures. With this, we had to make controls for both of the characters because we want people to be able to iterate between them, playing either whoever they like more or whoever they think suits the scenario they're currently in the best. And a lot of obstacles are going to involve utilizing both characters to complete a task. So we're going to get into how we programmed that. The first mechanic with the dual characters is character switching. So, if you're trying to complete a puzzle and you've gotten one of your characters stuck, maybe it's because you have to switch over to the other character and complete something to finish that puzzle. And that's what we're all about. So you can either play in control of Bjarder or Astrid at any time you want with one press of a button. You'll be able to switch between the two characters and make this experience feel a little more your own by choosing what character you want to take through it. The next little bit are the AI companion controls. Obviously, you're not going to be controlling both characters all the time at the same time. So, we've added a few little commands that you can shout back and forth between the two characters to really help you feel like you're in control of them while there's still another character present. We don't want it to be you and a mindless dummy. We want it to be Bjarder and Astrid, both on this journey, regardless of who is actually leading at the time. The mechanics that we've programmed for this are the follow mechanic, so you can tell the other character to follow you and they'll stay right on your tail, following behind you for everything that you do, as well as a wait mechanic. That way, if you're trying to do something and you don't want them getting in your way or you don't think it would be beneficial to have them follow you, you can tell them to sit where they are and hang out while you go and knock out the next part or explore this little area. There's also the switch mechanic, which I mentioned earlier, which will work between both characters, and you can do it back and forth both ways. Astrid can tell Bjarder to take a seat and wait this one out, and Bjarder can tell Astrid to follow along so they can get through this challenge. And we think that's going to make it really fun to control these two characters. Whew! We talked about a lot today, but there's a lot more to talk about. As we continue to work through this game, we really do want to keep creating these videos and keep sharing things with you. We're only a couple months into creating this game, and we know it's going to take a long time because good games take a lot of time and effort. but we really want to connect with y'all through every step of this to keep you up to date with what we're doing so that you can give us feedback and be excited, and we can build this game with you and for you to be the greatest game we can make it. All of that being said, I really appreciate that you've watched this video, and I thank you for being here today. I hope you liked what you saw, and I hope you'll continue to like what you see. If you did enjoy being part of this Key Smash community, feel free to check the description below. There's going to be a Discord server. We host that. We love talking to people. We take suggestions for our educational game videos. We take suggestions for YouTube videos we should make, games we should stream. Just come and hang out if you want. It's a great server, and we'd love to hear from you. You can also follow us and subscribe on YouTube. Get behind us on Twitter and Instagram. Any of those channels is great. And we even have model packs that we're selling in the Unity Asset Store. There's only one currently, but we've been working on this game a lot, so we'll get more out later. If you really liked what you saw today and you want to help support us continue to create these educational videos to teach you how to program and set up servers, or you want to keep seeing us create entertaining content like keep Twitch streaming and keep working on our game, you can actually go to our Patreon, which will also be linked below. We've just fired it up, and we're really excited to start building a community to help back us so we can keep working for you. That's the idea of Key Smash. There are only a few tiers there right now because we've just started it up, but as we continue to grow as a company and with our game, we're going to add more and more tiers in there to help you guys become more interactive with us. There's going to be a lot of perks for different tier members, and you're also really going to get to impact our game in a lot of ways, including, as we build later, some of the higher tiers actually allowing you to have content in our game, but we'll get into that in a later devlog. Regardless, we thank you so much for watching the video up to this point, and we hope to see you in even more devlogs that we can create in the future. So thank you for participating and for being part of our Key Smash family, and we'll see you online. Bye, everybody.